Okay. I want to welcome everyone to the Simon Fairfield Public Library Trustees meeting for Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. We have a quorum. I just want to take a minute for those who may be watching at home. I am Danielle Morrow. I am the acting chair for the moment since Joe's resigning from the board last month. So until another chairperson is appointed, you have me. So here I am.
Thank you.
Did everyone get the minutes from July?
Yes.
Have a chance to read them. Are there any questions, comments, corrections?
Well, Adam Thorne. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I was one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of page 1, Justin, try a different tact.
Tact. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Tactic.
Tact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Phew. No, tactic.
I would have said tactic.
Is tactic the
Try a
noun?
different tactic. Tact. Someone explain to me the use of this
It's
word.
definitely not TACK, so tact is, I believe this is correct.
Here's Kevin.
I think it's
Hi,
acceptable.
Kevin.
If it's
He
correct,
just
it's correct. I
started.
was just like, you know, I thought that was supposed to be tactic.
That's what I thought.
All right.
Are you going to look it up, Kate? Please.
You're dead to us already.
This is going to be one of those
You're
meetings,
dead
huh?
to us already.
Probably.
We're getting into semantics now?
Even the selectmen didn't know. But legal counsel did.
Other than that, are there any other questions or corrections or comments? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes with any
So moved.
grammatical correction that needs to be
I don't
made?
see tact used that way.
No?
That's
With a very
fine.
quick Google search.
I
think it's
T-A-C-K.
Tact.
That's like a
T-A-C-K.
No, tact. Tact.
Tact.
Tact is,
It's short for tactic.
Yes.
tact
and
is
that's
like
what
if
she's
you're
studying.
you're trying to get something across in a nice way. You're using tact. But a tactic
Yeah.
is that's the
thing,
noun.
the
That's the
thing, yeah.
noun of
It
tact.
says, Snook has reached out to several possible donors. If no response, he will try a different tact.
Tactic, I think it should be.
All right, I'll change it. It's the most important thing we have to deal with.
I hope so.
I could see justification for using tack, like the sailing term, because
Right,
you're like
that's-
trying to find another way to tack against the wind.
Right, but is that how
Oh,
that's spelled?
I
That would
didn't
be
think of
TACK.
that.
That would be
That
tact.
would
That
be
was tact,
TACK.
yeah.
So tact is a word.
It is.
Tact is a word.
Tact is a word, but I think it's an adjective that is using a tactic.
So this is a,
That's
an
a
adjective,
noun.
a sailboat?
noun.
Yeah, it's sitting in the brook behind my house.
All right.
If
Do
you
I
don't
have
want
a
it anymore, I'll
motion
take it.
to accept the minutes with the grammatical
opposed to it.
corrections?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
You know, usually I do check on things like that. I just said, yes, it must be T-A-C-T. It's not T-A-C-K.
It's what, you know what,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll look at a word and I'll be like, I have no idea what that is, or that doesn't seem right. You ever look at a word and
Oh,
like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
it just doesn't seem like the right word, so.
Especially if you look at it for too long a period of
You're
time. It
right,
starts looking
exactly,
weird.
so let's stop looking at it. All right, so.
Moving on.
Moving on to the treasurer's report.
Okay. Well, I think Justin has put really quite a comprehensive.
It's early in the fiscal year. We've only been spending money for, you know, really a month and change, because, and so spent $33,000, $741.49 of our municipal appropriation thus far. Our special accounts, we've taken in $204.08 in fines, $8 in donations. We've spent $55.81 on books, $220 on programming, and $598 on maintenance, which gives us a net loss so far of $69.71.
Ah.
What was the $5.98 on maintenance?
I needed to get some wing nuts for the sign out front and some bolts and things.
That's like the cheapest maintenance.
I know, that's all right. So, are we set with the treasurer's report?
I just wanted to mention that wherever on the minutes, I think I put it there somewhere. And it was about the
Fall
Douglas, the Douglas account on the special accounts, and all of a sudden it started to be called the S. Fairfield Expendable Trust. And I've just never known it as that before. And so I wanted to make sure that we went back to, and I had put it somewhere in this area.
Yeah, I know, I remember reading it.
And so I said also known as,
And it was under guidelines for donations and trust expenditures, page 2.
Okay.
so can we go back to calling it the Richard Douglas Fund? Because I'm never going to remember what the Simon Fairfield Expendable Trust is. Is there any reason why we all of a sudden changed it to that?
Did the town treasurer relabel it that?
I have no idea, but it's our labeling, not,
Yeah.
they shouldn't be
Because
relabeling our.
when
I'll
it says
quote it,
expendable trust, then it,
That's the interest from,
yeah, it leads to the connotation that the whole trust is expendable when you leave that word in there.
no, but there was two, the non-expendable trust and the expendable trust.
I'm pretty sure it's R. Douglas rather than S. Fairfield on the municipal side of things. Whenever we were first getting it put in there, it was put in as S. Fairfield, so that's how I put it in my ledger. So it probably showed up that way here somewhere, and I just need to fix that if that's the case. But I'll check on it
Yeah.
before the next meeting.
Thank you.
What are the professional and technical consultants?
CWMAR's membership. I don't know why we have to call it professional development consultants, but that's the that's how the town allocates it. That's the GL it comes out of.
Okay, are there other questions, comments, discussion on the treasurer's report? I'm good with it. Okay, moving on to the director's report.
All right, the circulation report is the next page in your packet, and you can see circulation numbers were very good in July. They were up significantly over last July, and they were better overall than any month since March 2016, and that was print as well as ebooks. A couple changes to this sheet from the way I have done it before. Access 360 is gone because the Commonwealth ebook collection is not supporting that anymore, and it's just going into overdrive. I'm not going to be tracking Gale database sessions anymore because I was tracking like the number of times people logged in and searched and used it. Now I'm just tracking full text retrievals because that's what the MBLC is tracking moving forward, and I just track what they want me to. We're tracking reference transactions now. After a year or so of resistance, I have finally gotten all the staff on board with tracking reference transactions on a Google spreadsheet. So like there's a little survey on the staff computers. If someone answers, a question about local history, reader's advisory, whatnot, there's just a toggle they can push, press enter, boom, we've tracked a reference transaction. And I'm tracking the total, the total local usage metric. I was just calling that the total usage metric, and I was adding up, what is not counted as. Basically, I was adding up the circulations from our collection, meaning things that we were sending out from our stacks, as well as overdrive, database retrievals, wireless sessions. Basically how much people are using the library. Instead of focusing on usage from our collection right now, though, I want to switch gears to focusing on local usage of our collection. So instead of doing that first number up here, total circs from our collection, from this top part, what's going to be added into that is the total circs over our desk, which is what has circulated in our library, regardless of where it has come from, because that's how Overdrive works, that's how the Gale database works. It's like not how much our library is used, or our collections are used, because our collections get used quite a bit outside our library because of the hold system. I'm tracking more how much we're using, how much Douglas people are using our library, or else people from out of town even are using our library, but they're using our library locally.
Right.
Yeah.
The summer reading program is done. We had 77 kids registered. We tracked their summer reading, and prizes this year were sponsored by the Breezy Picnic Grounds, Douglas House of Pizza, Harry's Famous Pizza, the Little Coffee Bean, Friendly's, the Eric Carl Museum, Yankee Candle Village, the Big E, Sandy's Stopera, and Rebecca Lavallee. So thank you to all of them. Whenever you add up all of our programs that we did for summer reading and track the attendance at them, our total attendance was 616.
That's a nice number.
Yeah. We helped out with Dynamic Douglas Day by hosting a rock painting night, because they had rocks spread out, and so they came in and did rock painting in the library. We had about 18 people there for that. And I played ukulele in a dunk tank for 45 minutes and got dunked by quite a few kids, so raised some money that way for the senior center and the veterans. We have a new weekly program at the library every Thursday now from 12:30 to 4 p.m. There is a group of ladies playing mahjong down in the basement. You do not have to be a lady to come play mahjong, nor you have to be a senior. It looks pretty exciting, but we're basically, leaving the back door ajar during that period of time so people can come into the library, play mahjong in the basement, and they just play mahjong and have a good time. Chess Club will be resuming September 4th. And on the September 4th, starting at noon until 5, Jerry will be at the library, and you can come challenge him. He's calling it the Speed Chess Competition. In reality, it's just an opportunity for him to beat you. You have to pay $5 to play him. If you win, he will give you $5, so you'll make $5. And if you lose, then he's going to donate that money to the library. In other news, we're trying to normalize all the juvenile spine labels. Moving to having new pages as opposed to old seasoned pages has made it more difficult to shelve, especially in the juvenile collection, because you put all the juvenile stuff on a shelf whenever you check in, and it's like, okay, well, we used to label things this way. Everything was just, JJ and then the last three, or the first three letters of the author's last name. But you have to check and see if it's new, because if it's new, it goes one place. You have to check and see if the pages are made out of cardboard, because then it goes in the board books. You have to check and see if there's a green sticker on it, because then it's an easy reader, or a yellow sticker, because then it's an intermediate sticker. And I changed the cataloging schema whenever we started, so instead of like the stickers and everything, it's just like Juve board book author's last name on the spine label and in the catalog, or Juve INT author's last name for intermediates, Juve ER author's last name for easy readers, and so on and so forth. But we've never gone back and just fixed all the old stuff. And so we're working on that. It's a long, painstaking, tedious process, but Rebecca seems to be all over it and all about it, and she's getting it done. We're weeding in conjunction with this project, so a lot of new, we've got to weed because we're out of space everywhere. Things are getting jam-packed tight to where, if a person goes and tries to pull a book off a shelf, they can't, because a page has packed things too tight, and you're like, well, you're supposed to shift over. Well, there's no room to shift. Okay, so we've got to weed. I cleaned out the Friends of the Library book sale room. In the process of shipping 87 boxes to Better World Books, and I've still got a bunch of books that need sorted down there, and donations keep pouring in, and we're about to have a lot of DX sessions. So if you are a friend of the library, come sort books, please, before Oktoberfest. Let's see, other thing. On September 7th, Adam is going to come help us relocate the metal shelves next to the pillars because they are in a horrible, unideal place. There's the two, whenever you walk into the library, you go to the right in the children's room, and there's those two metal shelves in the
Yep.
portal going to the back. Well, you can't use half of those shelves on one side because they're located behind those pillars. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from parents and kids because the juvenile nonfiction collection is not used a lot. We've got good stuff back there, but people aren't comfortable going back there with their kids to browse those collections because there's usually people back there at those tables, either tutors or people having small group meetings or a chess club or a program, or that's one of the places where people go. So what we plan on doing is ripping those two metal shelves up and putting them in line with the one metal shelf that's already in the main room. So it will continue out, and then we'll have more space for juvenile fiction. We'll have a nice little reading nook there. We're going to put the tables on the other side of that, and that will minimize the amount of the collection that becomes inaccessible when
People are there.
people are there. The real moral of this story is that we need more renovated space for people, events, and whatnot. So
Yeah.
powers that be, hear my plea, we need more space because people can't get to the books. We want to have room in the library for people, but we also want people to be able to get to the books. And right now it's kind of a choose one or the other. Because it's the same with the Intrepid Readers and all the programs that meet in the front room. When y'all are in there meeting, people don't want to go in there and browse the DVDs because they're going to be rubbing butts with you. And no one wants to rub butts at the library. That's not what we're here
Or you
for.
probably shouldn't. Better off not to.
Other things, on September 8th, we're going to be doing our first collaborative program with Douglas Orchard. They are doing an apple
Apple Fest.
festival. It's
Yeah.
started out being a bee thing, and it slowly morphed into an apple thing. And so now we're going to be there reading books between two of the other events.
Oh, nice.
I think at 2. At first it was 2:30, then it was 2, then it was 3, and now I think it's 2 again. It'll end up on the calendar once plans are all finalized.
So what do you mean? Are you, somebody's gonna do a story hour there?
Yeah, either me or Deb, as we get closer to time and see how the chips fall with the collection reorganization, we'll basically see who's available on the 8th. Whichever one of us is more free will go and do a story time on the stage. The kids will be able to come up into the pavilion, do a story time, and right after us there'll be the Dance Sensations studio doing another program. I guess they'll just have a lineup of stuff all day.
Yeah.
You might be able to get rid of some of the children's books
Mm,
by
that's a good thought.
bringing them to give them away.
Just give them away.
Here's a book, here's a book.
Absolutely.
No, just say they can.
And that could be, talk to the people at Douglas Orchard, and they can use that as a selling point to get families to come. Everybody who comes gets to choose a free book for their child.
We have books.
Supply, as long as the supply lasts, but I'm sure you probably have plenty of books that people can choose from. That's a great idea. I really like that.
Give away books.
I'm always up for giving away children's books. That's great.
And that's all I got.
Okay. All right. Are we all set with that? All right, looking forward to old business. The building capital projects and funding, we have the sidewalk rail.
Based on that little design I had drawn up with the pipes and everything that we talked about last time, Brian LaValle has given us an estimate of between $650 and $700 to get that done. So if y'all approve it, we can pull the trigger.
So who's Brian LaValle?
He is the guy recommended by Adam Furno. He does like carpentry work for the town and stuff. And he basically, his strategy is just to get pipe and weld the pipes together and then concrete those down into the concrete.
If that will work. It is basically, it's I'm trying to remember going back. It was for a railing, so on those little steps, so that somebody,
Yeah.
you just have
Yep.
something to hold on to, okay. Right.
To haul yourself up.
I know.
And you got the sidewalk, you got a little step up, and then this would put a rail here, kind of comes down. It'll look something like that,
Mm-hmm,
that you can grab onto and pull yourself up
Exactly,
onto
okay.
that first
yeah, that's
landing.
good.
And then the
Onto the
library
big wide
steps are way up
sidewalk.
here.
And we don't need 3 quotes, we just, because it's under $10.
Yeah, you don't need that
or
unless
something.
it's over $10,000 now, so.
Okay, so, I would entertain a motion for, approval of the funding. What was it, 650 to 700?
Mhm.
For, the sidewalk rail to be installed by
Brian
Brian
LaValle.
By Brian LaValle. Do we have a motion for that? Second?
I second.
Any question, discussion? Are we okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Next on to the electrical box.
Electrical box is an interesting story. Because I wanted to get an electrical box installed out front because the so-call uses our electricity every Oktoberfest. And we've gotten away heretofore by running extension cords out the window. But every year they have a bit more stuff, so we've reached the point where I have the electrical cords coming in 3 different windows, plugging them into 3 different circuits, and trying to balance it to keep the circuit from breaking, and then still end up spending a lot of Oktoberfest flipping the breaker. I asked, right now the Oktoberfest committee has an outlet on the outside of the building, but they won't share it because they plug in the sound stage to it, and if anything else plugs into it, it flips the breaker. So what we need out there is another box if we want to stop flipping breakers. So I approached the so-call about it, and they're like, yeah, sure, get a quote. But before I actually got the quote, they decided they were going to use a generator. So they're going to bring in a generator.
Right.
That is going to, I don't know, it's going to create friction with the Oktoberfest committee, but
Yeah.
It's gonna have a generator running
gotta-
right next to
you
the
you have a
Your
stage.
generator
generator
running
will
right
la-
next to
you
the
know,
library,
trying
and
to
there's the
listen
petting zoo
to-
out back.
Yeah, oh.
That's the ones that-
Yeah, they're they can be very noisy.
But the
Ah,
Jeff Grenier did get back to me with the estimate on putting a power box out there for them for $560. That said, they've said they're going to use a generator this year. They donate $300 a year. So if we just did it, I mean, the options are do it and then just allocate their donations to that and say, that's what we're paying for with this, or just let things ride and continue, or just kind of wait and see what happens after this Oktoberfest. So yeah, I've got a quote for $560 to put an electrical box out there for them. They're saying they're going to use a generator. I don't know how all that's going to pan out yet, so
I
maybe we
know.
just don't want to take any action on this right now.
I'm wondering.
Say just wait, see what happens.
Wait and
Yeah,
see.
I don't think the library should expend money for this sort of stuff. And the last box was paid for by Pete Tatro, personally.
Mm.
But this is not something, the once a year Oktoberfest is not a reason for us to spend our funds.
Okay.
And so either Oktoberfest will have to come up with the money themselves, or Sokol will, either one. Or everybody's happy with the generator. But it's not
I
our
don't think
business.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
My concern too is.
Or maybe they can get I guess the bank is closed that day, isn't it,
Mhm.
usually?
No,
Why
they're
can't-
No.
open till
In the
noon.
morning.
They're
Or
open
not in
9
the
to
morning.
12.
No, they close at noon time.
Yeah.
So-
My concern with you doing what you're saying you're doing and running all these cords and everything, My concern is that it could cause damage to the electrical system within the library.
That's what's been
If it
pointed
gets
out. Is
overloaded.
it's a fire hazard to have circuits
can be.
breaking that often.
Yeah,
That said, if they bring in a generator to augment and just not bring so many crock pots, then maybe we'll be fine this year. Last year we weren't fine. This year, though, maybe we will be fine.
I say we table.
Oktoberfest is a fun day.
it is, it really is.
It really is, yes. But I think we should at least table it for a year and see what happens with this coming Oktoberfest.
Or maybe, I know we've talked to the Oktoberfest committee, to St. Pierre's, so they're aware of it.
Mhm.
But, you know, that maybe they should talk about it, the Oktoberfest committee should talk about it as a committee.
I
you know.
agree.
You know, that's something that they should address.
Yeah.
How much insurance do we have on the place?
That's the noun, yeah.
Is it enough to rebuild?
280
We could actually get that
something, But yeah, you know, I hate it because we have a good relationship with the so-called, and this conversation has kind of made it seem like we don't, because I just casually mentioned to the Oktoberfest committee people, you know, because they came in when we're talking about Oktoberfest, and I was like, yeah, we keep flipping breakers. They're like, oh, that's a problem. So they called, I guess, they got in contact with the so-called, and then the so-called thought I was angry at them and had an issue, and I was like, I don't have an issue. I just want to stop flipping breakers and want to get you an electrical box. But I also kind of want you guys to pay for it. And they're like, well, we're going to go the generator route, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make everybody happy,
I know,
and it's
I
not
guess-
working.
See, what you said it's an electric generator, which would defeat the whole purpose.
Yeah,
Or
But, I mean,
somebody
they
has to
could
keep
talk
running
to,
for gas,
Mhm.
and they may reconsider.
But yeah, somebody just make a motion to table this.
okay. I
So
would
moved.
Shoot
entertain a
it down or
motion. All right.
something.
Second?
Second.
All right, we table that.
Yeah, we're gonna table that until after the Oktoberfest.
Or a electrical hazard, whichever may happen first. All right, moving on to basement posts.
They're a work in progress. I got the foamy things to put up on the brick, and I got the yoga mats to cut up and put along the bottom concrete pillars.
Yeah,
I tried to affix the yoga mats to the concrete pillars with carpet tape, and the carpet tape held up, but the yoga mats didn't, because little kids like scuff, they kick it, and then it just kind of disintegrated.
It is, it's really soft.
Did not work
Yeah.
the way I thought it would. So now we have some yoga mats. The foam puzzle pieces,
Right.
I can't find a way to get those to stick to the brick because the brick is crumbling. And that might be another issue we need to talk about soon, because if you try to fix anything to the brick, then it just comes off with a layer of dust. I don't think that the bricks themselves are the load-bearing part of the pillars. I think there's something inside,
Right.
and the
There's
bricks
gotta be
are
something, yeah.
outside. But right now, what Deb has been doing is whenever we have the music and movement program, just taking the foam blocks and, since they interlock with each other, and just like putting them up as a barrier around the posts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been working. It's not a permanent solution, but for the time being, it seems to be doing the job, because it creates kind of it's wider than the column. So if you have the column of brick, you've got your brick pillar in the middle, and then you've got your little concrete thing that sticks out a little bit on the bottom, and then if you put the puzzle pieces together, they kind of interlock around it, so it's wider than it needs to be. But we just take them down whenever there's not a program going on, and then
It's more,
It's
it's almost like a
modular.
visual that they see that. They see those pieces to stop them before they actually smash into the pillar.
so
you
we
would think.
could just keep doing that whenever we have programs, or could
Movement
continue
program.
trying to figure out a way to make foam stick to what's basically dirt. Because I think I could make them fix to the brick, but then you would never get them off again.
Right.
Because I mean, I could come in with a caulk gun and
Gorilla
stick
glue.
them.
Basically.
But I mean, nothing else is sticking to it.
Mm.
What are those puzzle pieces called? Puzzle pieces?
I have no idea.
They're like foam,
Called.
Yeah, no, I know what
they're
you.
square foam things,
yeah, yeah.
interlocking square
Yeah,
foam
Yeah,
pieces.
but so I'm gonna.
She needs
in
an
the
official
minutes
term for the
to-
minutes.
Yeah, when I type this up,
Yeah,
so.
interlocking foam pieces,
Gosh.
kind of works.
Interlocking textured grid mats.
I like
Foam.
Danielle's better, foam pieces.
People make floors out of them, you know.
Foam tiles. Foam floor tiles.
Yeah.
Tiles. Okay,
That's more descriptive than pieces.
okay.
Foam chunks.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So keep us updated on that. I'm wondering if parents, are there parents that, who go there with their children who might have an idea? I mean, I've worked a lot in preschool classrooms, I've set many classrooms up using, looking at all the safety things you need to follow. I don't know, like if you can't just, they have an actual foam, but they're more meant for the round pipes that you just wrap around. It kind of acts as an insulation plus a foam that so that
Yeah, we could get like the actual type of materials that you're supposed to use for this kind of thing, but then we're going to be spending like $1,500.
Yeah, I know, it's more money, so I would say try that, and if anybody else has a better idea, then share it.
Well, the assembling the wall around the concrete barrier seems to be working for now, so I
Yeah.
kind of want to just keep doing that and hold my breath and hope that we get a major renovation soon and it won't be an issue.
There you go. Okay. All right, so we'll move right along to the 5-year plan.
So the last thing in your packet is I took everyone's responses to my request that you write about the future of the library and combined like words so that you don't have like library, well actually you do still have a libraries there, a library and a libraries. But anyway, after like a lot of massaging and taking out all of the extraneous stuff, this is what sort of floated to the top. So there's this word cloud, and that's all the progress I've made on the 5-year plan since our last meeting.
Don't worry, you got 4 more years.
We got 4 more years for the plan. It's been rough because it was summer reading. Then, as soon as summer reading was over, Dad took a much-needed vacation. Gail taking vacation, training 2 new pages. It's chaos. It's chaos at the library right now.
So, what are the pages' names?
Isabel Briggs, SABELBRIGGS, and Louis, LOUIS, Bartoshek, BARTUSEK.
And how old are these pages?
Isabel is in 11th grade, and Louis graduated high school last year.
So is he in college or nothing?
He is nothing right now.
You're wrong.
I think I met him when I was at the library recently.
I met him.
Possible. He's the only one of my staff who showed up to Oktoberfest and dunked me in the dynamic dunk stay and dunked me in the dunk tank.
There you go.
Is he the guy that's been there for a while
He
with the dark hair? He helped with the book sale too?
Nope, that's a different guy. That was Michael.
And so how did you resolve the library assistant thing? You were proposing stuff and then we never heard.
Oh, I just did what was in that plan. So Rebecca and Marie are both library assistants now. They work an average of 9 hours a week. So they work 4 hours every fourth Saturday, and then 8 hours throughout the week. So it averages out to 9.
So Gail has her extra hours?
And Gail has her extra hours.
Okay.
So she's there on Thursday nights now. So when the library's open, Gail and Deb are there. Except for the Saturday rotations. But during the weekdays, they're always there.
That's great.
Well, just touching on the strategic plan a little bit, I don't know if anybody else had a chance to go to that webinar that Justin had suggested. I listened in on it, and there were some ideas and some things to think about. If we get to, when we get to that point of getting specific about what we're looking at, setting up the timeline and that. I'm wondering if, I know strategic plans are never anybody's favorite thing to work on. I used to always find something else that had to be done before I'd work on that. I don't know, I hate to ask for more meetings, but it's almost like it kind of needs to be a subcommittee to kind of just, like, work on that in between our monthly meeting. I don't know. How, are we in year one of our 5-year plan?
Is like right now we don't have a 5-year plan on file with the MBLC.
Right, and doesn't that affect funding?
The only way it affects funding is if you're applying for an LSTA grant.
Okay.
And the LSTA grants, are usually not worth it
Okay.
to apply for. There's easier grants to get. The hoops you have to jump through. I mean, it's like the building stuff and the requirements for building renovation and all that stuff, which kind of makes the MBLC in that regard, your best friend and your worst enemy at the same time. And the LSTA grants are kind of in that same category of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a lot of what they do. The LSTA grants, though, they're always very specific, year to year. And if I see one that interests me, that I think is useful, then I'll consider applying for the grant. But usually, they're not worth the effort and the time it takes to put into it.
Okay.
If you consider the staff time lost,
Yeah.
dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's necessary to keeping, your eligibility for the grant, doing all the required reporting and everything, then it's almost a net loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what'd you learn?
So what did I learn?
Yeah,
From strategic plans?
or
from-
webinars.
Oh, well, it was interesting, it was how to get unstuck with funding. And there was one man who spoke, like, he acts as a consultant across the country, goes into libraries of all different sizes and shapes and talks with them about moving them forward into getting funding approved and working with the community and the powers that be and everything like that. And then there were 2 library directors from libraries. One was in Colorado and one was in California. And the one from Colorado, it shows this beautiful building, 7,500 square foot building, which when he came on board as the director, the building had just been completed and now they didn't have money to run it. They didn't have money to fund it, to keep it opening. So he had to deal with, and it also was a community that was conservative, but there were what he calls newbies moving in that are more progressive and more supportive of the library. So some of the things are like ring true for here, even though it's not exactly the same scenario. And then the other director, he was from a community outside, north of, around Oakland, I think it was.
What happened? I don't know where it is.
Anyhow, his situation was where it's a county and it's so spread out, they only have 3 branch libraries and it's a county system. So his whole thing was trying to get the funding he needed into where they were and to get the people in that community on board with seeing the significance and the importance of pushing for it. This is one for you, Ellie. One of the ones was that, it was Sutter County, and the friends of the library came to him and kept asking him what he wanted them to purchase for him, and he said, "Don't keep buying me little things, just keep saving all your money." And he said they operate on about $5,000 a year, and he said they turned over $50,000. I don't know how long it took, and they're using it to renovate the front of the library and making it like an open, like we're talking about, reception area and all that kind of thing. And their friends are funding that through them. So it's there's a lot of different things, but it's just some things to think about when we get to that point. I mean, I think that's something that this board has to decide where we're headed, but I'm going to do that now. So.
Yeah, I will look and see if that webinar is posted online.
It's, you know what, I
Because I think they were
saved
going to
it.
record it.
You know what,
Yes, it is.
I saved the link to it, I saved the email, and they have it, you can get, it's all recorded. So it's,
And there were PowerPoints that you
Yeah.
can download and stuff too.
it's libraryvision.org, and it was a webinar that was on August 21st. It was something about getting unstuck was the title.
August 21st.
Yeah. Yeah, the PowerPoint was there, and I believe it was recorded.
I bookmarked it to go look at it later because I couldn't make it that day. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
So, are we ready to move on to
Yeah.
guidelines for donations and the S. Fairfield Expendable Trust?
I think this was on last time, but we never did do guidelines. We just said it was okay to spend some of the Richard Douglas funds on homeschooled materials.
Okay.
Yes.
But we didn't present any guidelines, so I don't know if we want to continue with that or not, or.
Well, part of the donation said that it had to, the interest had to be used for children's
Materials.
materials.
Yeah, but do we want to put everything in the homeschooling pocket for that particular trust, or, and what do we do with all the other donations? Are we hep on spending everything down to the penny, all the money that comes in to spend it that particular year, or do we want to save some so that we'll have $50,000 to help renovate stuff, you know?
Right, yeah, well.
So I don't know, Justin was asking for that sort of information, I thought. And if he's not concerned about it anymore, then I guess we aren't either.
And my question it was really just more of a philosophical question than anything else, because we ended last year with $4,233.41 more than we started with, through donations, grant, income, and all whatnot. So do we want to accumulate over time, or do we want to spend, and try to keep that number close to like zero, like a balance, so that we're spending as we get donations on services, or do we want to save it?
Well, again, this comes back to the discussion that's been going back and forth for quite a while now as to what happens with that money then. Because it stays with the library, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go into a general fund.
No.
So there's really no reason why, unless somebody says specifically that it should be used for, X, Y, or Z within this time frame, then we can, I would think, save it. I mean, there's no, I don't see the sense in spending the money just to spend it if you have to spend it. You know what I mean? That the money
Well, we
is
can always
there.
spend it because there's always needs that are not filled, like, holds, like ridiculously long holds queues for books. I mean, I could spend our entire Ligmeg on ebooks and e-audiobooks every single year and still not be at 100% demand satisfaction.
Is that what we're talking about, like Meg
Well,
money
that's
right
how,
now?
that's what it, well,
No,
that's
Or are
what
we
came
talking
up,
about
that's
donations?
where the issue came up because of that specifically, because there were some requests.
Right.
So it's
And that could
not
happen all the.
spending money for the sake of spending it. It's still spending money on what things that people want. But do we meet immediate circulation demands, or do we hold stuff in reserve for more big tickety things in the future? Because we're not exactly flush with cash when it comes to our budget is good, for our town this size, but the demand is higher. The demand on the library, is more than what we have the funds to fulfill. If we were to meet the demand for ebooks, our circulation budget would need to be twice what it is, which is, almost 90% of our operational budget as it already is.
No, it isn't. It's 19% of your operating budget.
Well, after personnel, like operational expenses, because the town considers personnel and operations separate. And we actually did better than 19% this last fiscal year. We did, I've got the number here, because this is part of the finance report we have to submit to the NDLC to make sure we're not breaking the law. Our total appropriated municipal income, or TAMI, for operating expenses, according to our financial report, was $214,918. That's what the town gave us last year. So in order to be in full compliance, we would have to have spent $40,834 on circulating materials, and we actually spent $46,862. So I was proud of that.
And that money came out of the LIGMET fund?
Some of it did. It counts anything that was spent on circulating materials.
So the Moan money that came in, that $2,000?
So there must be.
Paid for from the library operating budget. Materials expenditures, $46,462. Because for the purposes of the NBLC, they consider anything that we spend out of our private accounts from an operating budget from their standpoint. Because it doesn't matter if it comes in, the town has to kick in, the MAR. But if we take in more and spend it, we can still count it towards our minimum requirements. So like what we spent from the MON accounts, from the Ligmeg accounts, all that stuff.
You have to break it down to, between what the town appropriates and other sources of funding that you use?
I would have to if we had a foundation, but since we use the town treasurer and turn in our donations and whatnot to that, and it comes through the town still, then it counts as paid for from the library operating budget. So like what goes in from the town doesn't count.
That
like,
sounds a little messy to me.
It's the way it is.
Well, no, you have the town operating appropriated money for salaries and operations. And then you have all the money coming in from grants, LIGMEG, and the Moon donation and all that. That's outside of the MAR.
But they still consider that operating budget.
I don't think they do. There's like a third page on that whole report that says exactly what you spend out of those funds that the town does not appropriate.
I mean, you can look at the report if you want to.
I don't like to look at those reports. I never like to do them, but I do
because
remember that you
it
had
is
to.
weird because you have to put in your total appropriated municipal income, which is your income. Then you have to put in your municipal appropriated revolving income, which, you know, for us was 2,500, but they're not going to be counting that anymore towards MAR, which is why our TAMI stayed at 214,918. Then you have total non-appropriated income.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's
So
it.
All right,
we've got
that's-
monetary gifts of,
All right, as long
we've
as you're
got
able
state
to show
aid, we've got
that.
state
Right, that it
grants.
is not part of the.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the expense side, total personnel expenditures all get lumped into one no matter what it's paid for. Total materials expenditures all get lumped into one no matter what it's paid for. So you have separate parts of the form for income, but you do not have separate parts for expenditures unless they were paid for by the Friends or a foundation. So if you paid for it out of, you know, your league, if it was monetary gifts, state grants, you know, federal grants, any of this, it all gets lumped into what they consider your operating budget.
Okay, as long as it doesn't affect the MAR.
Oh, it does not affect the MAR.
That's
The only thing that affects the MAR is what the town gives to us per
Right.
year
at town meeting.
at town meeting. Because I have to submit proof from the annual town warrants that that's what was approved, because that has to match the number that matches the finance report that I have to fill out online, which matches the state aid and compliance form.
There you go.
I don't like doing this either. But, you know, it gets us 10, well, I can tell you exactly how much it gets us. It gets us $10,888 of grant money that we can spend however we darn well choose.
There you go. So, are we any clearer about guidelines for donations now?
So the Simon Fairfield Expendable Trust, it's been approved, I can spend it on homeschooling materials.
Well, you can, yeah, but you don't have to exclusively use it for homeschooling.
This
You can-
particular time.
Yeah, this time it got voted, but
Mhm.
in the future, I think it should be some homeschooling, some other children's, because Mr. Douglas never said homeschooling only. You can always buy homeschooling out of your regular budget also.
Well, he never said children's books only either.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of calling it the Richard Douglas Trust, because it's only for children's books.
Well, that was, technically that was something that was put in by the trustees and not by him.
No,
Because we
Mona knows
had
it
to
was-
find all of that paperwork and put it in.
I'm pretty sure Mona knows it came from him and he said children's books. So where that's in paperwork, I don't know, but I don't think we ever decided it was just for children's books.
I don't think it was decided by us, no.
When did we get it?
Oh, golly.
Not years, not 20 years, I don't think, do you? 10?
I don't remember.
I think more than 10. 20 years is not that long
I
ago.
know.
You know, it's just,
Like, I have no problems with making it specifically for children's books, but, you know, I'm just saying that in the paperwork, in the bequest itself, in the paperwork we have with Town Hall, it just says books. The interest is to be spent on books. Because that was a conversation we had back whenever we were turning the money over to the town, and we looked for the language, it wasn't there, so like the town treasurer can't say you can only spend this money on books. Y'all can say you can only spend this money on books. But we wanted, you know, them to put that restriction in there as well, and they couldn't because there was no.
Okay.
Well, he
That- that
definitely
just
said
wasn't
for
there.
books.
Yes, it's
Not
for
children's
books, but not for children's books. It's just
I
for
don't know,
books.
I'd like to find the paperwork on that, because we've always, in the future, said children's books.
Which is fine, because y'all have to approve the money and how it's spent.
Yeah, but
it
I
just
want to do
wasn't part
what
of
he
his
wanted.
bequest.
I don't want to choose how to spend his money. He donated it. I want to put it where he wanted it to go.
so can we figure it out
Whoever he is.
from when the Vanguard, do we have the Vanguard statements anymore?
I have all the paperwork somewhere
So
for
you
that
should be able to
because
find the
it was all
10,000
here. It was all, you know, that was.
of what year, and so then we can
That's
go
the
back
one
and
with
look
the
at our
Vanguard.
minutes.
That is old.
What?
If in the Vanguard.
Yeah,
That
it was.
is old.
Yeah, that's where it was originally, yeah.
Old.
Well, I think Sue is still around then.
Richard Douglas gave the money?
No, yeah, well, no, I don't know, but Sue was around when we did the Vanguard.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to be clear. I have authorization to spend the Simon Fairfield Expendable Trust on
Children's-
homeschooling materials for
Yes.
the time being.
Right.
Yes.
And every other donation I do not spend unless I bring it to a meeting first. Library incentive grant money, do we want to spend that down to a balance every year, or do we want to
I'd like to
treat
see
it like donations where I just come to the board for approval and then spend it after a meeting? Or should we treat it like the MOAN account where I just spend it, I'm authorized to spend everything that comes in?
Well, personally, I'd like to see a small balance kept.
I think your item number 2, you know, that you come to us for approval to spend LIGMEG.
Okay.
So that sounds good
Mhm.
to me, I don't know.
I don't see any
Yeah,
reason
that's-
to spend it down. I mean, over the years, we've had big expenses. The computers have all gone. If we don't have $4,000 or $5,000 there, how are we gonna get all new computers?
But every year we get 10,000, at least. So.
Right, but if we spend it this year, we're not getting another one for at least 6 months. So what do we do, have no computers for 6 months?
Well, right now we have a lot more than 10,000 in that account. I don't know what exactly we have in that account, but, you know, there's always the operating budget too, because I can request emergency fund transfers from the town. The thing is, I think that we're spending a lot of money out of our grants, out of our donations and whatnot, that we could be getting out of emergency fund transfers. If things break, you know, if I was a different department, I would have to go before the finance committee and ask for emergency fund transfer to fix it. We don't do that because we have this other money set aside. But if we were spending that money on meeting the demands of, you know, patrons, then we could go that other route and get the money, you know, through the channels that any other department would have to. We're unique in that we have alternate revenue streams, as opposed to, like, you know, police, fire, water, sewer. So there's a well of funding that we do not tap into. That we
know if
could, I
there's
don't know.
funding. If they go for emergency, they're going before the town, another new town meeting to get us to raise the money to pay for that.
No, it's the reserve fund.
Is it the reserve fund?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that they can get emergency stuff out of. So that's how highway is funded every year
Right.
for the snow removal.
But anyway, it's not an issue right now, so we can move on.
Yeah, okay.
The S. Fairfield Expendable Trust can
But
spend
it's
on
not
homeschool
called that.
Please
materials.
call it the Richard
The R.
Douglas.
Douglas
Because
Expendable
there is
Trust.
a Simon Fairfield Trust, which is separate from that.
The R. Douglas Expendable Trust can be spent on homeschool materials. Everything else bring to a meeting first. Except for
Yes.
MOAN. MOAN comes in, I spend it on historical books
Yeah.
And
And,
the
um,
homeschooling thing is for this year.
for this year. And the,
Because it's sadly lacking.
and I'm assuming if I go to Koopman Lumbers to buy wing nuts for $6, I can just do that.
Oh,
out
yes,
of,
yes.
Or do I have to bring
yes.
that before
No.
the board
No,
at a
that's
meeting
okay.
and then have it
No.
approved afterwards?
No.
We do not need, you do not need approval for the purchase of wing nuts.
Because sometimes like little expenses like that come up, and waiting
Well,
a
I,
month to get approval, and then by the time you get approval, you know, your bolts falling out of your book drop and your bag's falling down. and
anything
books
over
have gotten wet.
$100.
Anything over $100, that works for me.
Anything over $100, you need permission.
All right, let's move on to Friends.
Friends are fine. There's, our next big event is Oktoberfest, and I'm not gonna be there, so I hope people come forth and volunteer to work it.
Sure.
We had a good, you made a lot of money at the book sale, right?
600
Yeah,
something.
I saw that.
And that compares favorably to book sales past, doesn't it?
Oh my, yeah.
It's not a, I don't think it's the champion.
The record.
The record, that's what I'm trying to say.
But for a sweltering day in the middle of August when nothing else was going on,
Well, it was July, though.
July, August, same thing.
All right. Any other old business? Okay, moving on to new business. Oh boy, I see roof issues. That doesn't look good.
It looks scarier than it is because it's nothing that needs to be acted on right now, but in the spirit of just maintaining awareness, Adam did a roof inspection, and there are some issues that he recommends getting fixed next year. He recommends getting a roofer next year to walk the roof to do some minor repairs. There's tar cracking around some of the roof vents and chimneys and things, and the copper piece, like that big copper thing on the front of the building, is kind of rotting from the backside. So it's opening up and bees are living in it.
Nice.
Ooh. I mean, I'm all about bees, but the copper thing might need, I don't even know how you go about fixing something like that. A sculptor or a metal worker.
Did we have something fixed with that before? Do you remember? Anybody remember that? Or was it
Not the copper, but I know the roof has been repaired.
I thought it was that, it's the front of
Facade.
Yeah, the
Yeah, it's
facade.
that big green.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thing.
part
Yeah,
that goes
yeah, I
over.
think they did something to that. They didn't polish it or anything, but they did something to it too.
I think they just reinforced it because it was very wobbly.
All right, so we're good with that. That was easy. I thought that was gonna be like a really scary thing. Okay, moving on to the trustee vacancy. We have unfortunately received Joe's letter of resignation. So the lifers have asked me to be a lifer with them, and I was very honored to be asked. I'm very happy with that. Where you leave, well, actually now with Kevin's message, now we have 2 vacancies that we're looking at.
That's a really odd thing.
It is.
And what
But
is,
what is the
what board are
reason,
you
what is,
on?
what is the reason? He's a registrar.
I got
But what
Yeah,
is-
but who appointed you? The selectmen?
the selectmen.
Yeah, how can they do that? Isn't it an oxymoron?
No, they can appoint me.
But
I just
can't
can't,
have
I
any
just
other.
can't hold
So you're
any other
becoming a lifer.
position.
Yes,
Right?
Yeah.
she is
Okay.
now a life member.
You said yes. Okay.
So
Yes.
what happened was is that my mother retired as the registrar from the Democratic side.
Oh. Yeah. I think
and-
you'll make a perfect one.
And she retired over a year ago,
Oh.
and they never replaced her.
Ah.
And with the primary coming up, they actually have to have the board of
Equal
registrar-
representation, right?
Equal representation, so, Lisa Mazinski had sent out a email to various members to see if they could come up with anybody, and she didn't get anybody to reply back. And being the fact that my mother created the vacancy,
You felt
I
obligated?
felt obligated that somebody should volunteer for the job, since nobody came forward. And I volunteered. After volunteering, and I went to look up what the job entailed beyond the fact of going down and sitting every so many months in the hall after hours, so that if somebody wants to register the vote, there's somebody there to take it.
Mm-hmm.
I found that when I looked at other websites in the state of Massachusetts, the first 5 or 6 I looked at all went through stating that lovely little clause on their websites in the various local towns. Ours doesn't, but the fact is, it's a state law.
Yeah.
So the problem is that the selectmen had already gone through putting me on the minutes of the meeting. We went down to vote, and when I asked counsel while we were there, he also stated the fact that yes, that is a part of the law, that if you happen to be on the registry, you can't be on any other board where the selectmen either appoint you or the town votes for you.
And what is the rationale for that?
Haven't a clue. I mean, I understand from the days when I worked for HUD that federal law mandates that you can't be a member of either of the two parties with an office in local government. I mean, from a federal standpoint, I don't know why on the state one, because
Did you turn this into the town?
I'm going to print another one for the
You want me to
selectmen.
do that? Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Suzanne and also town
Suzanne
clerk.
and
Chris
Chris
Furno.
needs it, which is why I held off,
Yeah.
because the selectmen sent me the
I
notice
never
saying,
sent that letter.
Okay, you better too.
I just thought of that.
I'm going tomorrow again, because I didn't want to do it today, because at this point, the selectmen have appointed me, but I haven't been sworn in.
Okay.
So at this point, there's no conflict of interest until I swear in.
Oh, I see.
Which is why
Okay.
I wanted to do it after the meeting, so that we get an extra 30 days
Okay.
to search for someone to come into to apply to the selectmen for the board trustees. I did not realize before volunteering that this one office in the town is held to that,
Yeah.
state law.
Well,
I mean, I know from years ago, discovering that if you're a school teacher, you can't be the treasurer of either of the two parties.
Well,
Really?
there's some,
In town.
there could
There's
be
state
some
laws that
obvious
basically say
conflicts
that.
of interest, but I don't see how this is.
Yeah,
Right,
how are
right.
we going to milk the registrar as
Yeah.
a library?
I don't know, it's just that the state basically put, all right.
Oh, there's a reason somewhere.
I could see where something would be
Yeah,
included,
I know.
but this one.
I mean, I understood there would be a conflict when election comes around again and my term comes up, because I couldn't actually fulfill on that day, if I'm on the ballot, the registrar functions, because of the fact that
Oh, I
as,
see.
as a candidate on the ballot,
Oh.
you can't be within 500
Right.
feet
Oh,
of
yeah.
the, of the voting registrar.
You'll just have to arrest yourself.
I know.
No, but all the
I mean-
people being elected, I mean, you went and voted, didn't you?
You can go in and vote, you just can't stay. You have to leave
You
afterwards.
can't bring cake to the people?
It isn't like you can stand there handing out candy as they're coming in.
Wearing hats and
Wow.
slogans.
I mean, my father could go back to him discussing Pawtucket politics, because when he went through Providence College, one of his fellow students was from Pawtucket, and the young man was arrested for voting after hours. Okay, because he was in the ballot area when the ballot, after 7:30. He had come in before 7:30,
Right?
but he had finally got up to vote
Yeah.
after 7:30, so he was arrested for voting after the 7:30 cutoff. Now, granted, that, in our opinion, is not considered illegal. The fact that he voted at 11 polls that day, and he was underage to start with, but the two things they should have arrested him for. But that was Pawtucket.
Well, that's kind of like the cars you read, the stories you read in the paper all the time about
Yeah.
these guys getting stopped for having a blinker light out or
Yeah.
something, and they have like 5 kilos of
Yeah.
Coke in the back seat.
Right, yeah.
You're like, wouldn't you like have a car that's running right? And,
You should be able
So
to
you want
afford
to be
it.
pulled over for
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
But-
yeah, they get pulled over for some little thing, and then turns out they did a really big thing.
Well, that's probably because they were storing the stuff in the dooring, and they jiggled the wiring and stuff, the door panels, I mean. But, yeah, I'm sorry about this, because I know with Joe, I wasn't planning on leaving the board, but
Well,
it's just the fact that we discovered that for this one position in the town of Douglas,
right,
there's a state law against you being on any other boards.
right.
Well, thank you for your
Yes.
service.
I know.
Pleasure. And if you decide to leave the registrar, come back.
Yeah.
So when was your term up?
I was just elected,
I
but
think
you
it's
were
2 more
a year.
years.
Yeah, I think you were a year
Yeah.
after.
And you're this coming year,
Because
right?
I've already been on the ballot twice,
Oh, so you've got 2 more years.
because I was.
I would have been up for election this coming year. So there's gonna be,
So that was 1, 2, 3, so.
so that would be, someone, because I've moved up to a lifetime.
Yeah, someone to fill that final
Someone to
year.
fill that position till, and then.
Till May.
Right, and then run for election, because that's how I came in.
And then, and the same with Kevin, it will be till May and then run for
Whatever the,
The extended 1-year post for you, so,
right,
yeah, that would be correct.
They'll appoint them, and then you're on the ballot, and then when your term comes to an end,
well, my term would be up in May, so whoever is chosen to appoint,
you know,
to
Fill
replace
your
me,
position.
then they would run in May, and they would run for 3 years, because I would be up for 3 years then.
Yeah.
I'll tell you in a week.
So anyhow,
I want to register.
yeah, right,
Well, you got all the emails.
right. Does anybody have any ideas on,
I mean,
Well,
if
it's
there's
just
any
somebody
friends-
to talk to, Suzanne, and make sure, you've got to get your,
I've gotta get my, so we can't, can we do anything on mine until, before I give them that letter, or no? I have to give them the letter first?
yeah.
Oh crap, because I'm going away for a few days, I'll be back
Well,
for
just
the
copy
weekend.
his, his stuff, or so, yeah, I don't know. Just say you're appointed, a life member, and you have to resign your elected position. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
I mean, 2 sentences,
Yeah,
that's
You
it.
can ask people if they want to be on the board before you send it in.
No, because what happens there is a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen
Right.
Yeah,
and
no,
the
but
library
we can
trust.
ask somebody on the sidewalk,
Well,
would you
that's
be
it,
interested
right.
in being
Yeah,
on the board? We don't have to wait for a letter for that. We can ask a person.
That's
Yes,
true.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because
Right.
we
Because
know.
Joe is gone and Kevin is gone in addition to that.
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So do
Okay.
we want to do we need to have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen at their
At some
next
point.
meeting? Or?
No,
No, we need, when we're ready to.
You talk to Suzanne, ask her what the timing should be on all of this.
Okay.
And
We
then-
want to choose someone first and then go to the selectmen with that person and say, will you approve this person?
Well, they also have to fill out the application. It's
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah, I
be
know,
posted
but we want
online.
to, we want to get someone
We want to
we
nominate
approve
them.
of, not just
But-
go to the selectmen. We want to go with someone we've all
Right,
approved of.
right.
Does the
And
town-
get them to agree with
I
us.
understand that, but does the town need to post it also?
Yes, yeah, they do.
So-
And I don't know, and that's where
that's-
Town
Justin
can
can
post
find the
it, but,
time.
we
Huh?
can put the bugs in people's ear, people we want
Yeah, yeah,
to.
no, but I
Because you
think
need
that
to
we
actually
have
have somebody that comes in.
What?
I mean, the town will post it, but you still need to get somebody who's gonna.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah.
operate both,
Because, I
right,
mean-
you know, yeah.
My mother's vacancy was open for, being posted for a while.
Mm.
It's
Was
just-
that?
Well, she
Yeah.
retired
Well,
a year
See,
ago because
if
she was
if
taking
we
care of her father.
approach it and approach people and, push them and let them know that, hey, this is, rather than just let it sit on the website.
Yeah.
We have
I
to
mean,
actively,
If you take the list of people who worked on saving the library
Mhm.
and look at that group, you should be able to find somebody who's willing to volunteer.
Don Fontaine. Laurie.
I know of a lot of people who would be interested,
Yeah.
so.
That would be good.
So,
So we don't,
So-
do you know what the, so do they don't fill out the application though, because it's different. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
yeah, so Justin will find out,
All
I'll
right.
write this down. Justin will find out from Suzanne the timeline of all of this.
So we can let people know if they're interested, what they need to do.
And they can get the application online, or they can get it from Suzanne. It has to be turned in to Suzanne.
And she'll send out on an email the application. fill it out, and-
Yeah, she
Yeah.
sends us.
Yeah.
She sends
Oh.
copies,
Yeah, and I'll also update everyone on what I found out from Suzanne as well. And if she asks, I don't know, if she asks me, like, when does the board want it posted?
yeah, as soon as
Yeah,
As
possible.
soon as
Right.
possible, okay.
So the letter has to go to Suzanne and who else? There was-
Well, it has to be to Chris Furno first. That's
Okay.
the person that resigning from. And then give the copy to Suzanne.
Okay. Okay. as you were talking and you handed that letter over, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot I was supposed to do that.
Yeah, well, so we better adjourn pretty quick so you can go home and write the letter. Because you're leaving tomorrow, right?
Just for a few days, I'll be back.
No, you gotta do it.
You could
Alright.
write it
Yeah, by the end
tonight
of the
and
month.
put it in the slot. You know, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece.
Oh, I can just put
There's
it
a
in the mail
slot.
slot, okay.
Yeah, there's a
'Cause
slot
I
out
don't
there.
wanna, I'm out the door tomorrow morning.
Yeah, just put it in the slot.
Okay.
So do you have,
I don't have, I have a paper, but I don't have an envelope. so
Yeah, just scribble it out and write it. We can slide it in and
There's
slide out
paper
the
over
door.
there.
this is sort of, okay.
Boy, talk about heavy
Man,
twisting your arm.
alright, so we'll put,
All right, is there any other new
Chris
business?
Farno.
So,
You want to conclude the meeting first?
yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I'm new at this. Okay, so do we have other new business?
I don't have anything.
Hearing none. Our next meeting is set for September 25th. Same time, same place. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second, and it's a standing
Standing
vote.
vote.